Back with more Heartstopper. This is episode 7 of season 2, the penultimate episode, getting down to the wire. I didn't get to watch any yesterday, which was a shame. In my defence, I was at the cinema watching the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which was excellent. Do go and watch it. But we go from heroes in a half shell to heroes in a high school, even though it's called secondary school in the UK. But I'm going with that. Yeah, I'm very excited. Very nervous, because I've just seen this episode's called Sorry, which, So, yes, we've had a nice, wholesome time of it, with a bit of, I wouldn't say angst. I would say just serious shit thrown in. But, yeah, now, it was all happening last episode. Nick came out to a lot of his classmates, which was really cool, and all the couples were having like big, significant, wholesome moments. And then, other couples like potentially Isaac and James, not so much wholesome moments, but still time to address it. But yeah, I was thinking there's still 2 episodes. What's going to go down? We do have a few things that were mentioned, and they are now back from the Paris trip, I would assume, unless we have a whole episode just sat on the coach on the way back, which I'm not sure they'll do. But yeah, we had a few episodes in Paris, which was really cool. And we ended off with them driving back from that. People on social media asking questions about Nick and Charlie now that, he came out and said he's happy with people knowing. And yeah, we have a potential family dinner with Nick and his family. They mentioned that, his dad saying he's going to be in England. And there's also been talk of the prom, which obviously was mentioned at the start of the season for a reason. So I imagine we'll get to that at some point. We only have 2 episodes to do it, so I imagine we'll be getting one now and then one in the next, or maybe they're both kind of finale level things. I don't know. Either way, I'm scared it's going to get a bit angsty, and that makes me nervous. I think it'll be more so maybe what's going on, some personal shit with Charlie rather than relationship drama. I would hope that's the case, but we'll see what happens. We've seen Nick and Chai's relationship is incredibly mature and understanding. So, there's no obstacle they can't face, and they would talk it through and everything. So, let's just see where they go with it, I suppose. I head in trepidatiously to an episode. I wish I hadn't seen the title, to be honest. It makes me nervous. It would have popped up in the episode anyway, what am I talking about? But yeah, I'm very excited to carry on. I'm actually going to be finishing the season today. I'm watching these last 2 episodes back to back. So I'm ready for the pain, but hopefully more wholesomeness than the latter pain I just mentioned. Anyway, let's get on with it, and let's dive into the episode.
Girl,
Oh.
are you awake? You know Granny would have a heart attack if she knew I was letting your girlfriend sleep over.
Granny would have a heart attack if she knew I was a lesbian.
That may be true.
Go away! Yay!
Me and Elle decided to get together.
Oh, it's just so wholesome.
The perfect girl, my perfect boy.
I love her.
I have to cop up all and tell her the news, and then I have to
Oh.
go Auntie Lee and I
Not,
sang.
we haven't talked about actually being boyfriend and girlfriend.
Oh, we've all been waiting for this.
Me.
Dad's coming to visit. Sick.
Could we invite Charlie over?
That's a lovely idea.
How come Nick gets to invite someone and I don't?
Do you have a girlfriend you'd like to invite David?
I love her. Shut the fuck up, David.
We've been invited to Nick's for a dinner party.
Wow, Mum will love that. She's not exactly Nick's biggest fan, is she?
That's her problem. Ooh. Yeah, I was going to say, maybe leave that a while. Oh, they don't want to make it real yet that she's going to be leaving. Oh, God. Does Darcy hate it at home? Tough shit!
Would you like to be my prom date? Really?
I love that Charlie's constantly surprised that Nick likes him.
You got in, didn't you? Don't tell the others. Oh, I don't know how towels. I don't know if I can afford it. I haven't got much left after tomorrow. No, it's fine. I'm not okay.
Aww. Oh, so sweet. I would die for all of them. If I had to jump in front of a truck for them, I would, and then I'd have to reverse to make sure they get the job done.
Some man just bought like 15 of those Penguin Cloth Fan Classics.
Wow, that's like life goals.
That is true, actually.
I think there might be something wrong with me.
No,
There's nothing wrong with you. Probably
James.
just haven't found the right person yet.
That was really like big of James to act that way.
Look, I get that you don't think my life is interesting unless I have some kind of romantic drama going on, but I'm sorry to break it to you, I don't like him back. Okay?
It must be frustrating when you don't have those feelings, and then that's all people care about.
And I can't wait to see what art you make with these starters in September.
You got in.
Yeah.
Surprise! Oh god. There's still a place for you in her life. It's okay.
Basically about my experience being aromantic and asexual.
Here we go.
Like, being in a world where romance and sex are prized with everything else when you don't feel those forms of attraction.
She might be so caught up in like, what's wrong with me, even though there's nothing wrong with you, that you don't even consider, you know, like being asexual.
She's so moody.
Mm.
You told her to leave early.
So you guys can't tease me about being the token ally anymore now that Sahar's here.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm bisexual. So.
Slow dance. Some cheesy song. Yeah? I'm gonna hold you to that.
They do have iconic moments at parties. Their kiss in front of Nick. Darcy throwing up on the bed.
Would you like to say a few words about your piece? Okay. I guess I wanted to capture a place that holds a lot of happy memories. Somewhere I always felt safe.
Oh, that's so sweet. A safe space doesn't have to be a place.
Please don't base your decisions on how I feel. All I care about is you being happy. Wherever you are, I still want to be with you.
Aww.
I may still stay at Higgs.
I think she'll thrive there. Oh my god, you stalker!
I just want to apologise. Properly.
And you will listen to my apology, so I can feel better about myself.
I'm not going back to Truant for sixth form, so if you really hate me after this,
Oh.
you'll never see me again. I really liked you. If I just had more time. My parents would never accept who I really am. I just wanted something good. You were something good.
He is something good. But you didn't treat him like he was.
I didn't realise that you had all the control. When I eventually did realise, I thought, this must be what I deserve.
Oh.
And now whenever anything good happens in my life, there's a little voice in the back of my mind telling me I'm worthless and I don't deserve it.
And you put that there.
I'm glad you realised what you did was wrong, but you don't get to ambush me into forgiving you.
Exactly.
I really hope you become a better person so you don't hurt anyone else.
Me too.
But I don't want to be there to see that happen.
Me too. Yes! I didn't want him to forgive him. Is the rainbow not going to touch him? He's going to walk away. Oh, that's nice. I mean, it's sad. But hopefully that's the start of him working it out.
He doesn't have to know, sweetheart. He's
That
got no
is
right
true.
to know. You don't owe him a thing.
I'm not thinking of him.
Do you visit often, Stefan?
As much as I can. My job, it keeps me very busy.
Dad, has Nick told you how he met Charlie?
Oh, fuck off, David. Honestly. Choke.
And Nick was obsessed with getting Charlie to join. Wonder why.
What's your problem?
Have neither of you boys find girlfriends?
Oh, God.
I'm not sure Nick's too interested in looking for girlfriends, really.
Don't you dare.
Tell him, Tori.
Sorry, this is ridiculous. Charlie's my boyfriend. I'm bi, he's gay, and I was actually really stressed out about how I was going to tell you. I don't care what you think about it anymore. Because you don't care to even see us more than 2 times a year.
Ooh.
And I don't know why you're acting like you are 10 years old annoying. This doesn't affect me anymore. I like who I am. I like my life.
Oh, David, be quiet. We've had quite enough from you.
It's Nick that's making a scene. Always causing a fuss.
You started the scene.
You're not grown up into the man I had hoped you would be, David.
Yes.
As if you have any right to say that. You barely see your...
Also true, but yes. The silence from Charlie's parents was deafening.
Well, that went well.
Why doesn't he care?
I wish I understood, but I don't. I think it's a very sad way to exist.
I love her so much. Give her another Oscar.
Call me when you get back to Edinburgh. Huh?
Glasgow.
Oh, yeah, Glasgow, yeah. I don't really understand these things, but it seems like a very nice young man.
You don't have to understand, you have to accept.
Well, exactly. That's it.
You are a pathetic little man.
Yes!
Talk about my brother like that again, and I'll end you.
Yes! I love her!
It takes a lot for Nick to stand up to David like that. He must care for Charlie very deeply.
He does, yes.
He's a nice boy, when he's not distracting you from your coursework. And maybe we could have him and Sarah around in a few weeks?
Yeah.
Good. Progress. She can't just say something nice without a but still progress.
Charlie didn't eat very much.
The fact that he's like looking it up and everything though, like, shows how much he cares. Oh god. Oh shit. Jeez. Fuck. Okay, that was another amazing episode. Time for my 20-minute discussion of how great the show is. But yeah, I love this one yet again. What a surprise. And I think I've talked about it a bit in like previous episodes with like how the previous episode, the fact that we had like the party and everything, and I was thinking like it seems like a world away when we had the scene with Nick and his dad, but that was like the same episode and it feels kind of separate, but it also it transitioned and flowed so organically into the story just moving along because of its amazing pacing and writing. It just connects so well, even though you think like that should be like an episode in itself and this should be an episode by itself, but what they managed to do in terms of how they stitch the story together, I mean, I think it's just true to life really, that you know you're gonna have just one day or a period of a couple of days where it's like that thing happened like 2 days ago, that feels like a year ago. It feels like a fact of life that sometimes life comes at you fast, and some, you're gonna have a day that's full of highs and maybe a awful low at the end of it, so you just write off the entire day. So I like how Heartstopper manages to capture that in its structure, and again it's just a nice kind of satisfying way of watching it. I think the Netflix binge model really does work well for this show, because just watching it in one big flow, I think the story is very much designed that way, and even though this season in particular has matured a lot with the characters and the stories, it still feels like it's organically kind of flowed to this point, because the character's getting older, the story's getting older. It makes sense that all of those things are going to mature and move on. Episode 1 of this season was the day after Nick came out to his mum, so the story has just continued on. There wasn't a big months long gap in between seasons or anything. And I think it's a lot easier to kind of return to a show for a new season with some time having passed, because you can just do whatever you want in the middle to kind of set up, like, I have this idea to start this season, and that kind of happened off screen, because then I don't have to write that complicated exchange and explain how it happened in too much detail. But, I think it shows a great deal of belief and confidence in your story to just literally pick up where you left off. And I do really like when shows and even like sequels in movies do that. So yeah, that's my TV critic kind of opinion of the day for that episode. I really like the flow of the show, as has probably become very, very evident by now. Where to begin? So much went down yet again. I feel like I'm going to talk my jaw off. My jaw gets so sore after an episode of Heartstopper, just because I talk so much after it. I do need to take little breaks in between episodes, really. For context, I had surgery on my jaw in 2017 to kind of correct the alignment of my jaw. So sometimes if I'm talking for long periods, it aches like hell, and that's how I get sometimes. So maybe it's kind of a benefit that I've taken a bit of a reaction break until now, and we'll have another one afterwards. So yeah, where do we begin? I guess I've written down bits about like Imogen and Sahar and stuff, just that little interaction. I like that those two had a history that we didn't see. I like the kind of picking up on that, and Sahar's been like, I'm bi actually. I love that people just come out to Imogen as bi, and that's like a pattern for her now. So yeah, it's little snippets of side characters still getting bits and pieces to do, and just the detail that Sahar and Imogen were at this event for Elle is very wholesome. So I love that. Just seeing those two get kind of integrated more and more into like the core group is really nice to see. So I liked that little detail. Then Isaac and James, it very signposted now. Obviously, I think Isaac is asexual, and that's something he kind of discovered. I like the way he discovered it as well. The fact that someone else went on that journey and has then kind of unknowingly aided him in his, and kind of, I'm sure that was kind of like some puzzle pieces fitting into place, and the light bulb going off in his head. Because it must be incredibly frustrating to not know how you feel about something, and to know how you should feel, but you're physically incapable of feeling it. That must be incredibly aggravating. And I like when Isaac snapped at the others, and he was kind of saying, you're only interested in my life if there's a romance in it, which I think a lot of people have. Parents all the time. You got a girlfriend, yeah? You got a girlfriend, yeah? You got a boyfriend, yeah? That's all they ask when they see you again after a long period of time. Not, how are you doing? Are you feeling okay? You could be depressed as fuck, and they just go, oh, you're lonely then, have you got a girlfriend? It's annoying that that's all you get. At weddings, people be like, oh, you're next. I saw a tweet about that. It was like, I'm going to start saying, you're next at funerals. Which would be my response to that, because that's always annoyed me. No, I'm cripplingly lonely and shy. I do not have a girlfriend or a partner. So please stop asking me. Ask me about my actual life that I'm living, not the one I've yet to live or may not live. Thank you. But yes, there was that. But when people are kind of so concerned about that, above who you are as a person, just the fact that people are more likely to ask you, do you have a boyfriend or girlfriend before, are you a murderer? Because that's something I would want to know about someone personally. I think if I had to ask someone a question, if I was locked in a room with them, I think I'd rather ask them if they were a murderer than if they had a partner. But yeah, people have weird priorities. So the fact that that's what they seem, the others seemed to care about. Obviously, they do care about Isaac, but that was like the big thing that they were teasing him about, because they didn't understand that Isaac was going through some stuff, because they have their own lives and their own relationships going on. So it's understandable that they're a bit ignorant to that, but hopefully now they can consider that they were ignorant to that. But I really liked what Isaac was kind of saying there, and the fact that you only seem to be interested in my life, and it's boring unless it's to do with a potential relationship with someone. So that was really nice. And then the scene with him and James kind of talking it out, Isaac kind of admitting he doesn't really know how he feels, and he wasn't sure he felt it when they kissed, thinking there's something wrong with him. James had such an amazing attitude to that, and I just love the maturity to these characters, because teenagers can have complex feelings, particularly teenagers nowadays, who I think are a lot more open to the world as it should be and people being themselves as they should be. And I think characters like James really do show that maturity a lot more than, you know, old white men in their 70s. So the fact that he just took it so well, he's like, there's nothing wrong with you, you know, you just haven't found the right person yet. And that may or may not be true. Maybe James will be the right person, maybe he won't. You know, it's going to be a journey for Isaac now that I think he's kind of got this inkling that maybe he's asexual. That's a whole different journey to go on again. Maybe go on again with James and start again. Maybe James isn't the right person. Maybe Isaac just doesn't need a person, which is absolutely fine. So I love that we've kind of properly kickstarted that journey, and again, very organically done in the fact that it was presented at Elle's like queer art exhibition that she had a thing at, and then there was another one there about being asexual. So I love that, how that kind of kick-started and hopefully made some pieces click for Isaac there. So, you know, there's that moment, I think there's a moment of relief for like Nick whenever he's come out to someone, and I think that was a nice kind of moment of relief for Isaac there. He seemed to be like, oh, that you know, what you're saying, that's me. So that was great, and I'm really happy that Isaac's, I think, really kickstarting that journey of just learning more about himself now and kind of working out who he is. And obviously I feel bad for James over the whole thing because, you know, it hasn't exactly gone his way, but he was so mature about it that you got to respect it. And, you know, the idea that, you know, if a relationship is on the cards, well, that's it. They'll never see each other again. Now they can't be friends. Of course they can. So, yeah, they can still be in each other's lives as well, I would hope. So, yeah, I love how that story is still gaining steam, hopefully in time for the finale to maybe explore it a bit more. But either way, I'm glad there was a moment there, and Isaac kind of standing up to the others about their attitudes towards relationships and stuff. It's great that they have someone and they found something, but, you know, Isaac has been a bit left behind sometimes. And I'm glad he kind of, you know, showed his worth and it wasn't about a relationship. That's really cool. And yeah, James just had an amazing attitude about it. I really like him. He seems like a really cool guy. What else should we talk about next? Well, Tao and Elle, I guess we can talk about them for a bit. Again, it's cool that Elle kind of got into the college. I think she's gonna go. She has to go, surely. That, to me, did feel a bit like it's not the finale, so we can't say, like, definitely she's going yet. But I think she's gonna go, surely. I think it's just because there's still an episode left that they didn't just outright say it then, because they probably want that to be like a scene in the finale. But, you know, to have like her art there and like her safe space being, you know, her friends, and I bet it felt good for her to actually, you know, paint her authentic self in that picture, because that may not have been the reality of what that scene would have looked like if you'd taken a photo at the time. But she was still Elle to them. You know, even before she was Elle to the rest of the world, I like the fact that her safe space is still in a place that, you know, she hated being at. But there are little snippets of goodness in there, and I do think the safe space that she called it, you know, I think was more her way of describing, you know, Charlie and Tao and Isaac rather than, you know, the literal space itself. So that was really cool, and it was a really nice painting, to be fair. I'd hang that up. So yeah, that was really cool. Very wholesome that Elle's safe space is like her friends and like the people around her. That was great. And to still see her, you know, even after that, she then found that, you know, more friends in Tara and Darcy, and they kind of got brought into the circle now. And then, you know, Naomi and Felix at the school, more and more people, you know. And, you know, I know Tao's probably still a bit worried about maybe being a bit left behind, but, you know, Elle did find some new friends and new life for herself in Tara and Darcy, and now he's really good friends with them, and they all hang out together, so it can still be that, you know, even without that distance. But at the end of the day, Tao is going to completely support whatever Elle decides to do, like he told her, and I'm glad they could sit down and just discuss it. Like, you know, I'm still going to want to be with you, even if you are far away. Don't make any decisions because of what I might think or not think of them. You know, just kind of do what makes you happy. And of course he's going to think that because, you know, he loves Elle. So, yeah, that was a really nice, again, very mature conversation. a lot of growth, I think, in Tao's part. I can see season 1 Tao admittedly kind of being like, oh, so you're leaving then. Season 1 Tao would have sent that text at the start when he's like, oh, so you're leaving us then. Before any congratulations or, oh, so did you get in? It would have been like, oh, you're leaving us then. Season 2 Tao, he's grown a bit through kind of, realising his feelings for Elle and, the kind of steps and hoops he had to jump through when they were getting together and everything. He's definitely matured and grown. Seeing like Nick and Charlie's relationship flourish, so he's learned and grown a lot, which is really nice to see. And I think they showed it very well in that scene where he didn't send that text. And the fact that Elle kind of rephrased her message as well. She didn't outright want to tell them straight away. It probably made it very, very real that was happening and that she was going to be leaving not just Tao behind, her friends. She's leaving the safe space behind that she painted. She's leaving everyone in that painting that she painted, which is obviously a terrifying prospect. So why would she want to make that real before she has to? And also, if she is still undecided, why would she say right then that, oh yeah, I got the place, I'm going to go. So yeah, I love the maturity of their relationship already and how that's kind of developed. They've kind of had like the honeymoon phase, literally, getting together on like a school trip on a holiday, but now it's like it's real now, and I think they've kind of just taken to that with a lot of maturity, just like James, the maturity James showed, the maturity David did not fucking show, and yeah, just I love those two together, and I'm sure they'll be okay and they will go the distance, and I do look forward to seeing how it's going to partially end their story-ish at the end of this season for now. And also the scene where Tao told his mum and she was just so happy and excited and it's like, I need to call everyone we know. Wholesome. I love her. I'm glad we saw a bit more of Tao's mum. We saw Tara's mum for a bit at the start. I don't think we've met her before. Unfortunately, we also met Darcy's mum. So, we are seeing more parents this season, which is, I guess, double-edged sword, to put it lightly. But still, it is what it is. But yeah, wholesome. Loved her. Also loved having Tori back in the show and Sarah as well. As nice as it was going to Paris and doing all that, I did miss having Tori around. That is the one thing this season that I do miss is not having as much, little nuggets of Tori spread out throughout the season. But, that's how the plot is advancing. That's where it needs to go. It makes sense. I'm not going to be like 0 out of 10 because Tori wasn't in most of the episodes. She's in them when she needs to be. And I think, again, that's the bolder move when you're telling a story, is to know when people don't need to be in there and not just cramming anything in this world of like, instead of, oh, is this movie going to be good? It's going to be like, oh, which surprise cameo are we going to get in this movie? That seems to be the priority now instead of like it actually being good. I really appreciate, that kind of decision making for what's best for the story. If there's no place for Tori in the Paris trip, she doesn't need to go on the Paris trip. It makes more sense for her character to just stay behind. It does sound like her actual worst nightmare. So I like that they do that, even though I do miss the character. But when she comes back, she gets an amazing moment, like when she was just showing David the door and just, giving him what for. I love her. We'll talk a bit more about that later on. But yeah, all the Tao and Elle stuff, love them, obviously. So I'm excited to see, what Elle's final decision is. I feel like we all know, but, maybe they'll surprise me. I'm not sure. So again, in the comics, Tao and Elle and Tara and Darcy, they don't really have that much of a presence, really. They're there, and they have a few moments here and there, but they're nowhere near as present as they are in the show. So, I don't know where these kind of stories might go, because they weren't in the comics. So that's exciting as well. And yeah, speaking of Tara and Darcy, this was definitely more kind of Darcy's episode, I guess, more than Tara's. I think Tara had some moments in the last one as well, but we had the returned, albeit drunken, I love you from Darcy in the last episode. It's nice to at least see Tara's mums, isn't aware of their relationship and seems to be somewhat accepting of it, just more so nervous in regards to how the rest of their family would respond, I guess. Meanwhile, Darcy, I think you've been able to infer that she doesn't have a great home life and to see exactly why she's never brought Tara home, never met her parents or anything, is very, very clear. I loved how they kind of just showed that with like the dark cloud across the door, that kind of graphic across the door as Darcy returned home from the trip, and then just like the darker lighting in her room, and then when she leaves the house and storms out, it's just all surrounded in black. You know, I love how Heartstopper kind of visually presents things as well. You know, can say a lot more than anything ever would, to the extent where they kind of mute most of the argument that Darcy has with her mum, you know, because we see enough of it. That's a moment for, you know, Darcy, very selfless almost in a way, to not want to drag Tara into that mess, which is why she's never brought her home and met her parents or anything. And it's almost like she was acting that way for the audience as well. We didn't need to directly hear that argument. We just had an argument at another family dinner that we heard all of. So the fact that Darcy's kind of even shutting us out from seeing the full extent of what her and her mum are arguing about, you know, it's the same kind of deal, that kind of exclusion, which I thought worked very effectively. And yeah, her storming out at the end there, I don't know where she's going to go. I would assume she's going to just stay at Tara's for a bit, maybe forever. I don't know. I'm not sure I'd go back to that house. Darcy's mum seems a bit like a bitch, but yeah, it's just that thing, isn't it? How she's brought up and versus how her mum was probably brought up. It's just very different attitudes clashing, and unfortunately, there's, you know, still going to be another couple of decades of that, I think, before most of the angry voices who get mad at people who they'll never meet and have no direct impact on their life, but they hate them anyway. A lot of those people will hopefully start dying out soon. So, yeah, it's just, we're living in that kind of crossover period, unfortunately. So, yeah, Darcy just can't express herself the way she wants to. And it's not even like Darcy's mum... It's not just that... I mean, we don't know if she's like homophobic. She might be fine with Darcy being a lesbian. I don't know if we know if she knows. But even just when she walked and saw her in the suit and just laughed at her, like, what the fuck kind of parent are you? What the fuck are you doing? And then she's going to get mad that she's like stormed out. I'm like, take a look at yourself, love. So yeah, hate Darcy's mum, in summary. Very dismissive of what, you know, how Darcy wants to express herself and how to be. Actively wanting your child to be unhappy is a certain take in terms of having a kid. But apparently that's the one that Darcy's mum is going down. So yeah, brief snippets there. Maybe there's going to be some complexity to that relationship, but I think Darcy's mum's just a dick. So yeah, to kind of really see what Darcy has to come home to every single day. No wonder she was so excited for Paris to not have to put up with that nonsense. And again, retroactively kind of showing us, I think, the strength of Darcy's character and why she puts on that mask. Why it's so obvious she's putting on a mask, and even though she won't admit it, because that's just how bad her life is. You know, if the only way she gets to be happy during the day is if she pretends to be happy about everything and pretends everything's fine. You know, imagine the strength that must take. That must be exhausting to do that every single day, and still try and have fun every single day with your mask on. Despite knowing, oh, in a few hours, you know, school's going to be out, I have to go back home to that now. So yeah, how incredibly strong Darcy's been. To have even a remotely good time, you know, you can kind of see why she would sneak in alcohol to a party and stuff. Like, as if she kept living under that roof, she could be 30 or 40 and probably still not be allowed to drink, if that's what she would choose to do. So I like that, you know, we're being more and more informed about Darcy as a character as well, and what kind of makes her tick and why she may act the way she is. You know, she's just ashamed to have a family like that, I guess, and she cares about Tara so much, she just doesn't want to drag her into it. And no wonder she wouldn't talk about, like, saying I love you and stuff like that, because then it would feel like the natural next step would be, you know, meet her parents, go to her house and stay over for a bit. But to kind of talk about it and maybe say I love you back and make that real and take those next steps, it would be opening Tara up to that life. And, you know, I don't think she wants to admit that her life is like that at home, but she certainly doesn't want to drag Tara into that either and make her maybe go through the similar things that she has to go through every day. So yeah, that's incredibly sad to kind of see that. I feel awful for Darcy, and we'll see, you know, how that leads into the finale. It seems that we are going to get the prom in the finale, so I'm looking forward to that. And if Darcy's going to open up to exactly what happened to whoever or whoever she's going to, I would assume Tara, but maybe she'll go somewhere else, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's very, very sad, unfortunately. So we will see where it all leads soon. And then Tori, we've talked about her a bit already, but I just love her. I love that she was taking none of David's shit, and as soon as he started being a little prat, she was like, "Don't you dare! I will kill you." You know, even him just talking to his nameless friend at the end of the episode, and she just like kicks his phone down the stairs. Just calls him a nasty little man or pathetic little man or something. Iconic. I love her. You know, she's always just been, you know, number one Charlie Defense Squad member. And I love that she's just unwavering in that, to the point where she will kind of make a bit of a scene at a family dinner if she has to. The fact that she was the one who spoke up and Charlie's parents just didn't, they just sat there and let it happen. Even when, you know, what's his name? Stefan, I think his next dad's name. Even when he just assumed that Charlie was straight, they didn't say a word. It wasn't even about his relationship with Nick or anything like that. It was just, said something outright, or assumed something outright incorrect about their son, and they just said nothing. Like, so yeah, that's frustrating, but again, that's probably how those parents were unfortunately raised. At least Nick's mum is an angel. Charlie's mum, I think, relented a bit about Nick there, kind of saw a different side to him, which is nice. Even she didn't say anything about it. Maybe she was kind of impressed by what he was saying. So, you know, tentative steps are still steps, I guess, but I still get a bit frustrated with Charlie's parents. But yeah, hopefully they can just accept and unlearn maybe the ways they were brought up. You know, just because it's the way you were brought up doesn't mean it's the right way to bring someone up. So yeah, we'll see what happens with all of that, and if we get a big kind of confrontation or a scene with Charlie's parents in future. I imagine, you know, Charlie's eating disorder is definitely becoming more and more of a prevalent thing. We saw, you know, Nick kind of Googling it at the end. He's definitely got that real suspicion now and wants to help Charlie out. So you would hope Charlie's parents would get involved in that and be at the forefront of that kind of story. I guess we'll see. But yeah, the family dinner was basically exactly as I expected it to be. Frustrating for David, the little shit, and Stefan. And Tori being iconic, Sarah being an angel, Nick and Charlie just being the best couple ever. But yeah, I really did like, you know, Charlie just being there as support for Nick throughout the entire thing. Nick in turn kind of seeing that stress still impacting Charlie, even after he'd kind of hopefully made some sort of peace with the whole Ben situation. You know, this is still kind of, there's no quick cure for an eating disorder. Even if Charlie told Nick about it, it doesn't make it go away. So that's still kind of acting up, and Nick's now, I think, properly worried and aware of that, and he's going to take some actions against it. And yeah, I love Nick just standing up for himself and standing up to his dad and calling him out for being a shit dad. You know, David's not just a shit brother, he's a shit person. I'm glad both Nick and Tori kind of called him out for that. And even Sarah kind of shut him down a few times, which I love. You know, imagine giving birth to a son, having them in your womb for 9 months, and they grow up to be David. My God, how disappointed would you fucking be that he turned out to be like that? And at least Stefan was like, you didn't grow up to the person I'd hoped you'd be, David. By that he means you didn't grow up to be like me, I guess. Or maybe he didn't want David to be exactly like him. Stefan is an interesting one. He is a terrible father. He does blame his children for his misgivings. He's like, oh, you know, work is busy. And then the very next sentence he said was like, but work isn't everything, even though he's made work his everything. He's like, what, Nick, why don't you come visit me more often? And then talk about how much money he has and how well paid he is, so he can afford to come to England. And this literal school kid. Anyway, frustrating. But yeah, I don't know if there's going to be stepping stones to fix that relationship with him and... I mean, I say fix. I don't think it was ever really something that could be fixed. It was just not good right from the off. It was nice to get a glimpse that he doesn't even really know David all that well. He didn't remember where he was going to uni. So, you know, it's not just a Nick thing. He's just a shit dad. But maybe this will be a wake-up call. Maybe it won't. Certainly wasn't the ideal reaction to Nick coming out. At least it wasn't worse. But again, I'm not going to applaud him for not being a homophobe or a biphobe. You know, that's just what you would expect from someone, really. So yeah, I mean, he hugs David. He didn't hug Nick. So I'm still just there like, I just want to punch you in the face. So yeah, I'm not sure where that relationship kind of progresses, if it does. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So yeah, that was very much a mixed bag. I would be happy if they would just don't bother with Stefan again, because I'm not sure he's entirely worth it. You know, if you have to actively work to impress someone in your family, I would say they're just not worth it. So yeah, goodbye, Stefan. Go back to Paris. So yeah, that was kind of a frustrating thing. But I loved what Sarah was kind of saying. It's like, it's a very sad way to live, isn't it? The fact that when Nick was kind of saying, you know, why does he just not care? Why does he not make the effort? Yeah, it's awful, because Nick really does deserve both his parents to love him the way Sarah does and support him the way Sarah does and the way Charlie does. But, you know, maybe some people you just can't change who they are. And if you can't, it's not necessarily on you to change them. You know, like the whole Ben situation. It's not on Charlie to try and help Ben redeem himself or see the error of his ways. You just have to hope that they do and tell them to get the fuck on with it. You know, I want to live my own life, thanks, bye. So yeah, it's a situation for sure. David's just a dickhead. I just think he was born an arsehole. So yeah, just trying to stir shit right from the off, just for shits and giggles, I guess. And then when Nick bites back, then it's Nick who's making the scene, even though he set up that scene in the first place. Just can't stand him. Glad Tori kind of really talked him down a bit. Glad at least Stefan did snap at him a little bit, but then they seem to just be fine again, so they probably just go around in circles like that. I just think David's a dickhead, and yeah, go back to uni and don't come back, essentially. Hopefully he just keeps failing, so he just never leaves uni and we never see him again. But again, I don't think they're necessarily treating it as like, you know, Nick wants a relationship with his brother or anything like that. You know, we're not supposed to like David, so the show and the actor's clearly doing a very good job with that. But it doesn't make him any less aggravating to have on screen. But sadly, it is realistic that you're going to have someone who just acts like that and is just a little shit and, you know, never grows up, essentially. You know, David lives in, you know, Heartstopper season -50, and as, you know, the season's just kind of maturing, so he is now reaching about 10 years old. So, you know, he's absolutely going to be someone who, you know, lies alone on his deathbed, filled with regrets. But too little too late by that point. Is it too little too late for Ben? That's the question. I did see people talking about Ben potentially not being in season 3. I didn't know why they were saying that. I guess I do now. I think it makes sense anyway. I feel like a character like Ben certainly has a shelf life in this happy, wholesome story. But the fact that he was like, I'm not, you know, staying at Truman for 6th form, he's just not going to be around, it would seem. And I think that's the best decision for him, to probably just start again. Maybe try and be himself somewhere else, or at least maybe he still feels like he has to hide who he is because of his parents, which obviously sucks. I feel for him in that regard. So maybe he still needs to just stay in the closet and keep all that stuff hidden about himself. But he doesn't have to be an arsehole about it in somewhere new. He can probably start again. And yeah, I love that Charlie didn't forgive him. I was really scared they were going to do a whole redemption thing. It's like, you know, my life's better now, so we're all good. I forgive you. Like, some of the reason I think Ben's sort of the reason Charlie wanted to control something in his life, so he started controlling how he eats and what he eats and how little he eats. So, you know, Ben could have had it a lot fucking worse than Charlie, honestly, when he was telling him, you know, all that pain that he's kind of the cause of. But I love that Charlie, again, had the moment where he could stand up to him and just say, you know, I wish you the best. I hope you're a better person going forward, but I don't need to be there to see it because I don't want to be there to see it because you haven't earned the right to have me there to see it. And even the whole episode, Ben's just like desperate to talk to Charlie so he can feel better about himself and he can get Charlie accepting his apology to the point where he bloody stalks them to that event just because he knows Charlie's going to be there. Like, they talked at the start of the episode, like they had to get a train there because it's that far away. He took a train there for that. Was it worth it, Ben? Honestly. So yeah, stalker behaviour aside, yeah, I'm just a professional Ben hater, to be honest, but maybe it's going to be the kick in the teeth he needs, but I'm so glad Charlie didn't forgive him because he doesn't really deserve it in my eyes. And yeah, we can just see him, off he goes, walking away from the rainbow. You know, I did like that little touch that the rainbow didn't touch him and he walked away from it because he's not ready to kind of jump into that yet. So yeah, maybe in future he can learn to be a better person. Hopefully it is a big learning curve. I don't think we're ever going to know, but we don't need to know because it's not his story. And yeah, he doesn't need to be a part of Charlie's or any of their lives anymore. So off he fucks. Take Harry with you. Goodbye. But, you know, regardless, I do think, you know, Sebastian, who plays Ben, has done a very good job with the character. That felt very much to me like the last we're going to see him. It would be weird to have a scene like that and then he's just at prom vibing. That felt like an end. Maybe it's not, but it did kind of feel that way to me. So I couldn't be instantly proven wrong now when I watch the next episode, but who knows? But it certainly felt like, you know, the end of his arc in the show and, you know, another moving forward point for Charlie to hopefully kind of bounce back from everything that Ben did to him. So yeah, very glad he wasn't forgiven. Wish him well, I guess, but off you fuck. And do we really have much else to say? Just how much I love Sarah. Olivia Colman, I love her. You know, I know she's very, very busy, so we weren't going to get that much more of Olivia Colman in season 2 anyway, but I'm just glad she's here. I'm glad we're still getting some bits and pieces of her. And, you know, her interacting with Charlie's been really nice to see this season, however brief it's been. But yeah, I just love her unwavering support for Nick and the fact that she knows David's a dickhead and she's just like, shut up, David. Amazing. Love her. So yeah, we're getting, you know, more bits and pieces of everyone's parents, for better or worse, in this season. And again, that's just showing the maturity and the reality of the situation. You know, season 1 definitely was like the fairy tale romance for the most part. There weren't that many like major life obstacles or anything getting in the way for them. You know, they could still be together, even though Nick was in the closet. They could still be together. But you know, now season 2, you know, more life stuff is happening now. And it's about just all these different kind of couples kind of working their way through it and working out who they are in the world and who they are to each other and with or without each other. And then obviously like characters like Isaac who, you know, scarily but bravely have to also navigate that journey just on their own, because maybe that's just who they are, how they are. But, you know, you can also find someone in your own time once you've worked it all out. So really great stuff from all like the major characters in this one, I thought. You know, I just love that whole group together. I just think they're so great. When they all kind of put some money in so that Darcy could afford the suit for prom. Wholesome. I love them. And I like that Darcy was kind of trying to throw that back in her mum's face and being like, you know, my friends are going to be supportive of me wearing this and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, still a few things to be addressed in the finale. I'm intrigued by what's going to go down at the prom, how Darcy's situation's looking. Hopefully we're going to get some stuff with Isaac as well, so maybe more discovery from him. You know, what's Elle's decision going to be about the art school? I think she's going to go, and Tao is going to be supportive of that. As sad as it would be for them to be apart, they can work through that. Then I also think, you know, Charlie's eating disorder is probably going to play a bit of a role as well, especially with Nick actively like googling it at the end, and I think he's going to try and aid Charlie into finding some help or telling someone else about it. Maybe we'll see. And hopefully we see Mr. J and Mr. Farouk in the finale at some point, because I want to check in with them, see how they are after Paris. Hopefully we do get at least a little bit of something. They got to be like chaperones at prom or something, right? I'm sure we'll see them. But either way, another fantastic episode. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds in the finale. And yeah, can't believe we're at the end of another season, and then another long ass wait for season 3, whenever that's going to come. We shall see. Until now, though, that's going to be everything for this reaction. And yeah, I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.